What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. BobbyFi with my man, Eric Sheets. We are talking to you just after Christmas weekend. Hope you guys had a great one. It was a good time here. A lot of sports going on. So it wasn't a simple just go chill with your family. And then there was constant messages going on about what was happening. Sheets played the NBA slate yesterday. I didn't. I did have a really good shot in the Millie Maker. I finished 23rd in that one. I also won the $12 single entry. I cashed, I tripled my money in my three entries on the Wildcats. I basically every lineup I had I had a pretty good lineup and everything because thanks to Joe Burrow, Boyd, Chase, and Higgins, most importantly. So I had a really good day, even in spite of a bunch of injuries. But still waiting on that million. I wanted to get it before the year was out, and I really thought it was coming, but not quite. Sheets, how did you do? Talk a little bit about the basketball. It sounds like you did pretty good.
Yeah, I did well in basketball yesterday. I did well in football, but as I mentioned, it was the usual. Nothing really big. Made a little bit of money. Didn't cash the Wildcat. I had my Burrow lineups. Had James Robinson. It was just kind of tough to put the right things together. But I made money. Can't really whine about it. But it is really funny. It's a really funny survivor story. So again, that big circuit thing I busted a couple of weeks ago. But in this other one that I'm in, it's like 350,000 for first, and I had three choices I was going back and forth between. Now think of the results as I go through this. It was either the Chargers minus 13. They were like a 13-point favorite over Houston.
No, they were almost 17 by the time the game locked.
I could have taken them.
Yeah.
I could have taken not the Eagles, the Seahawks minus the 7 over what. Oh God, we don't care about the spreads. Seahawks, they were like a 7-point favorite with Chicago at home. And then there were the Falcons, who was like a 7-point favorite with Detroit. And they all had pluses and minuses based on Survivor. And me and my partner, we were going back and forth in this, whatever. And then early, it's so funny. I should send you the log. So this is how amazing things happen. So this morning I was like, you know what? We're taking Seattle, and that's it. We don't want to be wimpy. We don't want to take Chargers. We're just going to take Seattle, and that's the end of it, right? And then I was about to leave. Like 10 minutes went by. I said, you know what? I still think Seattle's the play, but if you really prefer Atlanta, because you're against Nick Boyle, I'll go with that. And he says, no, I really prefer Seattle. I'm going to go with Seattle, but I'm leaving for the day. No more changes. Okay, no problem. Then I saw the Chargers line move up. So I said, you know what? I'm going to call you for a minute. I called him up. I said, listen, are we just stupid just not taking the Chargers? They're the 13-point freaking favorite. We should just take the freaking Chargers. He's like, you know what? You're right. Put in the Chargers. I'm putting in the Chargers. Unless you really think that we should be risky, and take Seattle or Atlanta. He's like, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we should take Seattle. I'm like, yeah, I guess. I mean, what about Nick Boyle? I was like, yeah, screw it. Take Atlanta. So I said, okay. So we took Atlanta.
Unbelievable.
Chargers lost. Seahawks lost, and and not to mention the Hawks won just barely, like at the end.
Not the Hawks, but the Falcons.
Yeah, the Falcons won literally just barely at the end. So that's the way that's funny the way it happened. So we're down to 23 over there.
Wow.
And it's kind of fun. So I'm ready to tackle the NBA, the COVID BA, I guess that you're calling it nowadays.
Yep.
And let's get after it.
Yeah, I'm into it. It's look, there's all different kinds of game theory and stuff to use, and we talk about in general and all these things. And we kind of have to try and it's the game of speculation. And actually, it's funny. I haven't had the big result in the NBA recently, but I've been doing the 2 and 3 times my money. I've had some nights where I just got completely wrecked on every lineup. Christmas was one that looked like it was going to be a huge win for me, but then just sort of everything fell apart at the end. But I think that there's a lot we can still have some edge in here. And I mean, this slate, I guess before we jump into game by game, I think you're going to have, for good reason, the easy spend up is going to make sense to be James Harden and Jaylen Brown. And I think that's like where you're starting from, in my opinion, today. Nathan Knight is going to project through the roof. We'll talk about that as that game comes up, because I'm still not 100% sure. I need to get a better feel for who's going to start, what's going to happen, and all that stuff. So let's get into the game by game. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you think about this first one?
Yeah, so my page over here. So again, it's like kind of depressing. We just look through, just look at all the outs, range starting with, if you sort by salaries, like all the way down, like on all the games, like everybody's out. It's just amazing. Yeah, so right off the bat, you have these Charlotte guys who look pretty good, man. You got Plumlee, is probably a good play. Rozier, McDaniels, Hayward, Ball, Oubre. I mean, there's just they're not that many. I don't know. There's just not that many players, you know. So I definitely think that all these Charlotte guys are in play. On the Houston side, I really don't have much. If anything, maybe Christian Wood is a run back if you want to stack the game a little bit, but not that much. But so let me just look and see if I want to prioritize these Charlottes. I actually think that LaMelo is kind of cheap here at 9,400. I do like that. And then there's, again, how do I prioritize? I can't really, like Plumlee, Oubre, Rozier, McDaniels, Hayward. I really do like them all. And that's pretty much where I am for now in this game.
Yeah, I want, you know, like, it's a great matchup. This game is, I believe that, yeah, that like by a pretty long ways the highest total on the slate, or probably pretty good ways over the San Antonio Utah game. I don't know. I feel like I could make a good case for a lot of guys, and I'm trying to figure out. Usually, the best thing to do in that situation is to take the guy who's the best player with the most upside, which would probably be LaMelo here. But I'm not going to fight you on Oubre. I'm not going to fight you on Hayward. I'm not going to fight you on Rozier. It really could be any of those other guys as well. I just think LaMelo stands out to me as being the most glaring. The only thing is, you have LaMelo, Jaylen Brown at the same price. Can you get them in with Harden? Because I do think I do think Jaylen Brown, with the situation in Boston, might be a little higher on my list than Melo is. Pretty close, actually. No, I have Brown a little pretty much higher. But I really think all of these Charlotte guys are in play. I guess if I had to rank them, I would go LaMelo, Oubre, Hayward, Rozier. And then you can always do the McDaniels and Plumlee thing. I would lean McDaniels, but I'm okay with Plumlee. That's where I'm at with them. And on Houston side, I don't know that we need to play anybody. If it's going to be anybody, it's probably going to be Jashawn Tate or Eric Gordon for me. I don't mind Christian Wood at all. I am a little like, I think he was like, I don't know why they would play him when he's like banged up, but he did look like he was playing banged up. And he hasn't really gotten 31 has sort of been like his cap on minutes, and he hasn't really produced lately. But maybe if no one's going to play, like, he's going to get low ownership against this Charlotte team. I mean, Charlotte has just been getting torched by every center. If Jalen Green and Kevin Porter or one of those two are out for sure, which we don't have official word on, I think then he becomes a really, really strong play as well. And as does Tate and Gordon, which is just hard to know without Jalen Green and Porter news for sure. But I do think this is a good game to try and target. You could stack. You could play 2 or 3 from Charlotte, and you could potentially play 2 from Houston if you get the Jalen Green and Kevin Porter out. Not particularly interested in those guys if they do play. Kevin Porter, I think we could have a tournament conversation, but probably a better play on FanDuel. That's where I'm at in this game. You want to start off Chicago?
Yeah, so Chicago, Atlanta. I don't like anything on Chicago, except for I guess you could make the case that, what's his name, still cheap. Kobe White, he's still cheap at that price. So I'll throw him in there, but the majority of this stuff is going to come from Atlanta. You not only have, now you have Collins out also, and now DeLon Wright is out as well. So, man, there's a lot to do here. And once again, Skylar Mays is going to probably project to be a really strong play if DeLon, what's he going to do? But I'm going to start with what we started with last time. I'm going to start with Bogdan and Cam Reddish, and just kind of work backwards from there. The other guy that's going to be in play with Collins out is going to be Jang. Capella, obviously he's going to have to play, not have to play, maybe he's going to play minutes, but I think I want to start this with Cam Reddish and Bogdan. And then we have to see whether we really need to play Skylar Mays, because we were back and forth whether we wanted to play him or not based on whether he was starting, but now with DeLon Wright out, I don't know, man. It's going to be, I think it might be tough to keep minutes from him. But what's going to be interesting is I wonder if they give any more color to these other guys. Like, I haven't played Jaquan Jeffries in like a long time. I don't even know what happened to that guy. But if he's like actually on the team now to like soak up some minutes, I don't know. I got to do a little research. I just literally saw his name in the player pool, and I'm like, is that a guy I want to play? I don't know. I want to do a little research on that. I want to start with Bogdan and Cam Reddish. I think they're both kind of smash plays.
Yeah, I tend to agree with basically everything you said, including that I do. I mean, look, it was very different with Skylar Mays as in my opinion, the other day, a very thin play. So
Right.
we had three weird games from Skylar Mays when this has been the case. You got the start against Orlando where he put up 0.7 fantasy points and only played 9 minutes.
Right.
Okay. You got the start against Philadelphia and he put up 35 in 33 minutes. And then you get him off the bench against the Knicks on a Christmas Day game, and he put up 18 and 22 minutes or whatever. So really, you got every single range of outcomes. But this is different without DeLon Wright, assuming he will start tonight. I don't mind if you want to play Stevenson instead. He's 3,100, and I think that's actually a viable pivot with DeLon Wright out, because DeLon Wright plays a ton of minutes. Like, I mean, you're talking about a ton of minutes, and are they really going to let sure, on Christmas they were going to let Bogdan play the minutes because it's a Christmas Day game. You're going to play that, but to have him like projected around 37 minutes today feels a little bit too high to me. But the offense should also run through him. So, long story short, I think I go Bogdanovich, followed by Reddish, followed by Skylar Mays. Skylar Mays, assuming he's starting, then Stevenson, and then I don't mind Capella as a long shot tournament play, just in that price range where I don't even think it's that long of a shot. I just think he's a good tournament play. The other ones on the other side, I don't even know what the argument is. I actually should have relooked at my numbers and everything. I mean, why isn't Kobe White the lock of plays? Because he had a bad game?
That's what I asked. That's what I suggested.
Yeah, I don't really, I don't know. I mean, he's got a wide range of outcomes, but when he hits, like, he could put up 45 here. You know what I mean? It's not like he's got a really, really high ceiling. At the same time, you do have the other guys who are in the lineup. So I don't know. I guess he's not just an obvious, like, you have to do it, but I do think he does stand out as being a really, really good value. And I'm probably going to want to have pieces of that. I don't think I'm going to play anybody else on the Bulls side of it. The Javonte Green thing, we know how that goes. We have other value, so we can look at that other value, in my opinion, as better value than Javonte Green. Of course, there will be some Javonte Green 10x games and mixed in just by being on the court. But for the most part, this is a very low producing player who's actually a solid real life, solid-ish real life player. But Troy Brown could steal some of those minutes. You know what I mean? It's not like he has to get all the minutes. And keep an eye out for the starting lineup. That's not a guarantee that Kobe White starts here tonight. So just keep an eye on what they end up doing, because they don't need to start him against Atlanta with the way that Atlanta is currently constructed. All right, you want to start us Boston and Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to this before, and what's interesting is that I didn't quite have him as the biggest, as much of a smash play as you did, although I have him as a good play. So I'll let you talk more about the Boston side. I have Jaylen Brown as the best of Boston, but you have Tatum, who I have as out, but I still think Smart plays. So yeah, I have Jaylen Brown being a good play, but I didn't have him being like the best play on the board. But you can talk about that in a minute. Minnesota, you have a situation where probably, I don't want to say necessarily the chalkiest, but one of at least the chalkiest play on the slate is going to be Nathan Knight at 3,800. So I'm going to leave that to you to tell me if that's, one of those thin plays that we have to play, or one of those, or that we don't have to play, or one of those plays that you kind of have to play. I'll leave that to you. But other guys from Minnesota, you have Beverly at 5,800. You have Malik Beasley at 6,000.
I think you're looking at the FanDuel pricing. I'm just guessing.
Oh,
which is fine.
I am actually. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, hold on a minute.
Yeah. Knight is 33 and then Beverly's 50.
Right. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Just give me just 1 second to go back to that. Yeah, and needless to say, he it doesn't change the idea that he's still going to be the cheapest guy. So he's 3,300. He's projected right now to get 8.5x. So he's certainly looking to be, again, same question that I'm going to pose to you after I finish with this is whether he's someone you can fade or not. Then there's Patrick Beverly, 5,300, as you were alluding to. And then there are other guys, Malik Beasley, 6,200. Then you have Jordan McLaughlin, Jalen Noel. I mean, like, those are the guys that I'm presuming you don't have to play. But then there's Jaden McDaniels also. I mean, I don't know what to do here. So what do you like here? What do you think about Nathan Knight? What do you think about the other Minnesotas? What do you think about Boston? Where are we?
So I think that, I think there's still definitely a chance that Smart could sit. And if he sits, then Jaylen Brown, it's going to be hard for me to talk myself out of him.
Right.
But even just alone without Tatum, we've seen it the other way a lot this season. And Jaylen Brown is, a guy who's in play. I mean, obviously on FanDuel, you want to play Jaylen Brown for sure. He's 8K over there. Great matchup for him in a million. He could get steals and blocks too, and you just might smash over. I just don't think I'm not going to build lineups without Jaylen Brown, at least at first glance. Peyton Pritchard is the other one who I have interest in the most. I don't mind Smart, but I think I would just rather pay up for Brown or down for Pritchard. And I think that if we get Smart out, then Romeo Langford becomes in play. It's hard for me to know what to do with it because I'd like to play Horford or Williams, but I don't think there's any reason to on this particular slate. On the other side is where it gets really interesting because we still don't have 100% confirmation, although I expect Beverly to play. I'm not sure about Okogie, who's just going to eat up some minutes, but I do think Knight. I mean, he's going to project through the roof. Certainly makes some sense against a team that plays bigs, but they could use McDaniels arguably in some of those spots. And he doesn't have to go be the same fantasy point producer per minute that he has been, because you can be a good fantasy point producer in short spurts a lot easier than you can throughout the course of 28 minutes or something like that. And he's been a pretty good producer per minute, but that's sort of what he's being projected on, and it's not exactly fair because he's playing in 5-minute bursts, once or twice a game. So you really don't know what you're going to get from him. And it doesn't have to be him either. They actually have other bodies. They could play Chris Silva. They could play Jake Layman, who's not that big, but I mean, you're not playing Boston. It's as much as they have big guys, they don't have big guys who are going to beat the hell out of you down low. So I'm sort of stuck a little bit on this one. I'm curious. I want to see what happens with Beverly, Okogie, Smart, and Grant Williams, because it just frees up so many minutes if any of those guys are out. But right now I've got Nate as one of the best values on the slate. I don't really know how to, not have him there. I think Noel is where it gets he's the interesting, potentially low owned play that while he's, truly listed as a point guard and you think that he wouldn't play maybe as much with Beverly, there's a definite path where he ends up end up running a lot of offense through him. And Beasley is so scoring dependent that at really high ownership at 6,200, I probably would look to fade, especially if Marcus Smart plays, because that's who he would end up guarding. But I still like Beasley. I really like Beasley as a tournament play. But when I looked at the projected ownership, I'm just going, I don't know if I want to get that far with it. It just seems like you don't need to play a guy at, what might be 40% ownership. I don't think he'll end up there, but if he does, I just am probably going to have to fade away because.
Which guy are you talking about, Knight?
Beasley.
Oh, Beasley.
Because Beasley is scoring relying on, he's going to have to carry the offense. And I think Jaden McDaniels is a really solid play. So there's a lot to look at here, but we do need to get confirmation on who's in and who's out before. And hopefully we'll have some more of that before lock in relation to Beverly, Okogie, Grant Williams, and Marcus Smart. Because without those guys, you get really thin. And we're going to start talking about Jabari Parker very seriously if you lose Grant Williams and Marcus Smart. So it's going to be a wide open. This game is going to be one of the games to target, but it's hard to know how with these guys still questionable. And I am operating under that these guys are legit questionable in Okogie's case, at least. I do think Beverly plays, but I don't think that you need to play Beverly ever. But I think he's fine. That's where I've got it. So I'm gonna wait till 6 to really give my more thoughts on that one, because I do want to see who's in and who's out before I make my full commitment.
Utah, San Antonio, you have the best player out for both teams. You have no DeJounte Murray for San Antonio, and you have no Donovan Mitchell for Utah. As a result, I mean, just instinctively, it seems like a game that you want to do something with, right? So let's just take a look at it. So first of all, the most obvious ones showing up are the Utah guys, but we'll talk about it. So you have Joe Ingles at 3,700. I mean, it's just a good price. Then you have Rudy Gay at 3,400, who's certainly less, to me at least, less of a priority.
Wait, what is happening? Rudy Gay. Oh, Rudy Gay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking that was Rudy Gobert. I was like, what happened here? Sorry, my screen was a little out of whack. Go ahead. Sorry, Sheets.
Yeah, no, I'm getting to that. And then there's Jordan Clarkson, obviously, who's now, I mean, he's only 5,300 on DraftKings with Mitchell out, so that's gonna be a good play. Not to mention your normal, you'll get Rudy Gobert, more usage out of him, so he's gonna be a good play. So I mean, with Mitchell's a is like a monster, right? So with him out, I mean, just all going to go to these guys. And then you could even go back to your other guy, your Royce O'Neal, who you play from time to time, you know. So I think all the Utah guys have to be, you know, underpriced. And then on the San Antonio side, I mean, the natural thing that I would think would be that Derek White would necessarily be a great play for whatever reason. Maybe this is dumb. He's just not really projecting all that great. He's projecting fine, but I naturally just think he's just kind of a lock. And if for whatever reason, I mean, there's no way he's going to be ignored. But if he is, I mean, I don't know. I'll try that. I'd rather do that than stuff like Lonnie Walker and Vassell and all of that stuff. I don't know, man. I really do like Derek White here. And that would be my priority. Play Derek White on the San Antonio side and get a few of these Utah dudes and just kind of, you know, run a little mini stack there.
Yeah, all that makes sense to me. I think the one guy you didn't mention that I have interest in is Podol, because you talk about guys who you can run offense through. You can run offense through Podol, even against Gobert. Like, it's like Gobert, as good as he is a lot of his defense is help defense. I mean, yeah, he's a fine head one-on-one defender. He's not like this out of this world guy that everybody thinks he is. And he's partly that's me listening to podcasts and listening to, I mean, literally nobody gives less respect to Gobert than NBA players. They really don't think highly of him. Somebody was saying that they'd rather have Kristaps as a defender the other day. I can't remember. It was another All-Star. I can't remember who it was. I think Podol is legitimately a good play here, because I'm looking at guys you can run your offense. I mean, Murray runs a lot of things. I think Derek White is a good example. Podol or White, I would say, on the higher end. And then I actually I like Keldon Johnson, and I really like Vassell. I think that Vassell is really talented, and he's not going to project well. So he might be something you could do to get off the board a little bit. And his minutes are they definitely are in flux in general. But without Murray, I could see him getting hot and being on the court quite a bit. The only thing is they still have a lot of bodies. And we've seen Popovich play a bunch of bodies before and not really give anybody that 40, 38-minute upside that you might think would happen without a guy like DeJounte Murray. On the Utah side, I prefer Ingles probably to anyone else just for safety. And then I think Clarkson for upside. I don't think Royce O'Neal gets any real boost, but he can definitely get there in a good pace game against San Antonio. I would have liked him here anyway. But I don't think there's any special reason to play him or Bogdanovich. I think Rudy Gay is probably a little thin. I don't think they're going to play him a ton of minutes, although he can always get there. I think Mike Conley is a little bit, is probably like the interesting one who no one seems to have any projection, like that he's going to play significant minutes here. And I could see Mike Conley playing, like I could see him having a big game here. So I actually like the idea of potentially playing a Conley, but I think I would rank it Ingles, Clarkson, Conley. And I don't think Gobert gets any sort of a break, but it's a great matchup. I don't think it helps Gobert that Mitchell's not there. So, yeah, that's how I'd rank it. Ingles, Clarkson, Conley, and then Gobert. And on the other, and then I think that I would like to take shots on the Vassell, Lonnie Walker things. I don't think they're going to be that owned, and I think one of those guys could easily get hot. And the only thing with Derek White is that it's not like everything has to run through him, although it's happened more that it's been going that direction anyway. But if you don't want to play Derek White, I think you get a lowish owned Keldon Johnson and a low owned Jakob Podol. So it just worries me with San Antonio on a big slate to play their value versus other value, with the exception of Vassell and Walker, who both can shoot themselves into a 10x kind of a game.
I'll tell you, I've got teams minutes projections for like a lot of guys here. Like I got teams minute projection for Bryn Forbes.
Yep.
For like 15 minutes. I have teams minute projection for Trey Jones, 16 minutes. I have 15 minutes or almost out of Jock Landale, a center. You know what I mean? We've seen, and we've got Bates Diop with like the 19-minute them. We've seen Popovich do this since the beginning of time. You know what I mean? Like, right. A guy's out, you expect someone else to do whatever, and he just spreads it all out. So, yeah. The other thing I would throw in, again, just not to make too big of a deal of it about this, but the aforementioned for Utah, Rudy Gay is going back to San Antonio. Okay. So that's that might be a little something. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
My issue with Gay is the original reason they got him was they wanted to try and counteract what the Clippers did, and they were going to play him at the 5. He's played 25 minutes this whole season at the 5 because Whiteside has been really good. So I don't see them doing that. If they were to do that, I would love to get and he was going to play 20 plus minutes. I just don't know if they're going to do that with him.
What about Whiteside?
Yeah, it's not like on Christmas it stood out as being a good situation, especially because the potential blowout, even though they didn't go that way. And his production per minute is phenomenal, but you sort of want the upside of them blowing somebody out where he can really get there. I just don't know that. I think it might be a little too thin on this kind of a slate, because there's so much other value that I expect to not just get there, but get there by 8, 9x, you know? So I just have him behind the other guys. That's, I guess, how I have it.
All right, Memphis Phoenix.
It's a weird one.
Well, I mean, it's weird, but it's standard another way, in a way, because I don't really like anything from a true DFS, like value perspective. I kind of want to play John Moran. You know what I mean? That's the best I could. I played him yesterday, and he had a very pedestrian game yesterday. He had literally, I think he had 12 fantasy points at the half or something like that. And then
he had foul trouble or something.
I don't know about that, but
usage was incredible.
Yeah, and then in the second half he did really well. He did better. I like that. I just don't know if this slate it's worth doing, but I do like him. I don't want to do this other stuff for Memphis. I don't want to do John Concher. I don't want to do, and he's going to show up as a point per dollar play. He just is. He always does. And these other guys, I really just don't want to play. And then on the Phoenix side, I mean, sure, you want to play Booker, I guess. I don't know, just not a lot. I mean, maybe do a Booker Morant thing or something like that. But I just feel as though these spots on these teams where all the guys are missing are just going to be much better plays than playing this game, than attacking this game.
Yeah, my instinct is to agree with you. I actually like the idea of playing Ja. He didn't play tons of minutes on the front end of the back-to-back. Desmond Bane should get plenty of work, and if it's not Ja, it could easily be him. I do think Concher's in play just because of his ability to rebound. That's pretty much what I've got. I don't really know what else. I also think you could see a potential, it is a back-to-back. It's not like, even with Memphis is still really deep, so they could potentially rest or at least lighten the load on some of these guys, although most of them didn't play a crazy amount of minutes yesterday even. I'm sort of stuck with what to do with Memphis. And also, it's not, on top of all that, it's not a good matchup with a little bit of blowout risk too. So on the Phoenix side, I think that for this type of game, if you want to take a guy, if you're going to play a Ja lineup, you should probably consider somebody on the other side, because I think there's a path where Ja and Booker both get over 50. That's definitely in there. And then you have a different build than most people. And you've got definitely, you've got guys who can put up those huge raw games. I don't think anyone's going to play Chris Paul, and I don't think I want to either. But it's 7,900. It's starting to get a little bit to the point where it's okay, maybe we could take a shot with him against a fast-paced Memphis team. But it's just, I feel more blah about this game overall than I do the other
ones. Okay, so Portland is it's already pretty interesting, and it could get ridiculously interesting if Lillard is ruled out. So it says here he's questionable for personal reasons. Yeah, so I don't know what that means. I don't know when we're going to know about that. I have this weird feeling we're not going to know for a while. But then if it's for personal reasons, wouldn't that be wouldn't that be announced soon? You know what I mean? It's not like he has to test out an injury at 8 o'clock or anything like that. I mean, he's either gonna take the day off for personal reasons or he's not. You know what I mean? He's not gonna go to shoot around, for example, and then decide he's not playing. You know what I mean? I don't know. I have a feeling this is gonna actually be determined pretty quickly. Nonetheless, he's been playing 40 minutes, right? 40 minutes, 35 minutes, 38 minutes, whatever it is. If he plays, he's healthy. I got no problem playing him. We start with that. Mm-hmm. Then these other guys on Portland are showing up, that I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to do it. You have Nasir Little. I'm getting a projection on him that's 28 fantasy points. I don't know. You could talk me off of that. I really don't want to do it. Then you have Larry Nance again. He's projecting to be okay. Norm Powell just all right. Anthony Simons I would only play him, I think, if well, it's about to say I would only play him if Lillard's out, but maybe you could play him anyway. But as far as Portland goes, if Lillard plays, I want to play him. If he doesn't play, then we just have to reassess. On the Dallas side, Brunson again. I actually had some fun and some good luck. I played Nicolina the other day, and he wasn't bad. So I presume he remains sort of in play.
No, I don't think he's in play.
No, I don't know.
Actually, his ceiling is like we say he's not bad. He was 3,100 and he had a ceiling of 28. Like,
yeah,
what do we want 28 for from a 4,100 guy hitting a ceiling? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many guys who are going to crush that who are cheap.
So if that's the case, I really don't want anybody from Dallas. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm sort of like that. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to I'm just saying my personal take. I don't think Ntilikina is even viable on this slate. And could he put up an outlier game? Sure. But I mean, unless we hear a few other guys, if a few other guys are out, but they've got a lot of bodies still. Josh Green also should be back, and he wasn't available. Brendan Knight's been getting minutes. Like
that guy.
I know. I wish I could get he won me a big tournament once. He scored like 75 fantasy points, and he was literally like 0.1% owned. It was like the weirdest thing. I think he scored 50 real life points off the bench. It was something crazy. Let's see. I think Dallas is basically a pass for me. I don't mind if you want to play KP or Brunson if you're going to play Lillard on the other side.
Right,
what worries me is that Lillard even plays or not. So I don't know. It's hard to assess. I do think I do think that Little is a priority for me. He's really good, by the way, and they really like him. So whenever they have an excuse to give him minutes, he's going to get them. Like, he's their third most important player to the franchise, and they have an excuse to play him now, and he's going to get, he's going to play. The one thing he's not a guy who's going to go out there and try and score a million points, and you're not going to get high usage, but he's active. He rebounds, he creates shots for others. He can do all the other things. So I actually think he is a pretty solid play. Also, he has the forward eligibility. We have a lot of good guard value.
Right. Okay.
But I don't think Norman Powell's a must at 6,600. Like, it just seems like a high price with high ownership doesn't quite make enough sense to me. Even though Powell's a guy I usually like, but I usually like to get him at low ownership in the 5K range. And I know they're down bodies, but the only other guy I want to mention is that I do think you could make an argument. What I just said about Little, the sort of reverse is like if you want to speculate on something, you could play Little and Simons and then figure out what to do and just hope that Lillard doesn't play. That's it. And if Lillard doesn't play, Simons, everybody in this whole thing becomes like a guy you really want to have, and these last games are not so exciting outside of a few other, the obvious James Harden and stuff. So it's hard to figure out what to do without Lillard. I mean, what do you do? Play Lillard, and then I'm even trying to come up with switches. I can't do it at the moment. Maybe by 6 I'll have something. You want to talk about Brooklyn and the Clips?
Yeah, so we'll start with the Clippers. Yes, shout out to the Clippers from yesterday. I told you I did well. One of the reasons why I got a 40 burger out of Zubac at 1% ownership last night, which was strong. And then I also got a 50 burger out of Bledsoe. Wasn't quite as low owned, but he was lower than I thought he'd be. So he did really, really well. That doesn't, again, I'm less likely to play them on a back-to-back as a result of that, but just kind of a shout out to them. I presume that what's his name remains out. Yeah, Paul George. So, all these guys, I think from the numbers would probably have to remain in play, right? So we'll talk about that. But I mean, as long as all these guys remain out on Brooklyn, just Harden just got to play him. I mean, and he had, listen, let me tell you what happened on Christmas, right? So on Christmas, I didn't, I had Bogdan in the first game, and, he didn't do all that well. I really underestimated it. You know what I mean? I thought that I was like dead, you know what I mean, after Bogdan. So I kind of went on tilt. I took like all the Harden and LeBron out, you know what I mean? And replaced it with stuff like other stuff. And it turned out to be okay, but it turned out I didn't even need to do that. You know what I mean? I could have stayed chalky with those two plays, and Bogdan was just enough to I still would have done better. Mm-hmm. And when I say mercy, I mean, Harden scored 75 and I was fading him. I was thankfully only had 75. I mean, he was on track for like 90 in this game, you know? And there was like one stretch where I don't know whether he sat or whether he just didn't do much, but he was stuck on 63 fantasy points for like 7 minutes or something like that. And oh, thank God, you know, I think that's not going to get 100. But every time he takes the court and, you know, with the lineup the way it is, he does have a 100-point upside. You know? So, and we knew that eventually he'd figure this new paradigm out, you know, as far as like how to get his, you know, even if he can't get all these fouls called. So and he's doing it, you know. So I think you just kind of have to play him until further notice. Now you could get away with doing stuff like we talked about, like if you want to play, say, Lillard and, you know, Moran, Kristaps, you know, stuff like that. There are points available, but you know, Harden is certainly the best play. So that's where I would in cash games I would start with Harden, and then on the Clipper side, again, I think that I guess Bledsoe still has to be considered a decent play, I suppose, if all these guys are going to still remain out. But I don't like playing guys like that on back-to-back. So I don't know. I'll probably regard this as just like kind of a marginal play.
That's sort of where I'm at with Bledsoe too, especially considering he's going to have some ownership. But on FanDuel at 5,500, a little more stomachable. On the rest of the Clippers, I really, it's, you know, I don't have a ton of interest here. Like, right. I feel like I'm supposed to. They're missing they're you know, two most active offensive players, and I just am having trouble getting to much. And it's a good matchup for them. The back-to-back does slow me down a little bit, but like, you know, I don't know. I mean, on a different slate, we might even be talking about value, or a different era, maybe not a non-COVID era. We'd be talking about a long shot Brandon Boston play. But I don't think we can do that really, like logically here. It's tricky. So I'm gonna just put my stake in Harden in this last game. I don't really have a ton of other interest. I did, you know, I felt really good about my Patty Mills play on Christmas. He played great, but it turns out because it was all about the way that your lineups were organized, and I hadn't played with Harden and everything and with LeBron on the other side. The problem is then I didn't have the Carmelo part of it. And if you don't have if you didn't have the Carmelo, you weren't going to win any big tournaments. You could certainly have been in them, but you couldn't have won anything. But I like Harden. I think it's pretty much it for me for this last game. And yeah, it's hard for me to really get to anybody else unless we hear about some injury stuff, which we probably will.
One guy who's probably, I would imagine, to be back today is Marcus Morris. He cleared protocols, but but they held him out another day anyway.
Oh, well, that's easy then. If he's not, unless it's conditioning things and he's out, because I have him as out right now, and without him, I don't think any of these Clippers are especially viable on this slate.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It says he'll be able to return to practice. He's not clear whether he'll be available for Monday's game. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
And you know what I noticed? So first of all, he's not going to play or whatever it is. But I was wondering what happened to this guy, and I just found him in the DraftKings lobby. I was wondering where Harry Giles ended up. He said he's actually on the Clippers. Yeah. I didn't know that. So it's not relevant at all. But
well, one of these days coming up soon, it very well may be. So it's actually
one of these days you have Zubac, resting or something like that, and it's just him and Serge. You know what I mean? Like,
if Serge is out on a back-to-back, Serge might be out tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he's not going to play today. It's not going to be today, but it's going to be sometime. I think there's going to be a Harry Giles day probably before the season's out.
There's got to be a Harry Giles day at some point.
Right, he's our guy. All right, so I guess real quickly, I'm just going to go over my priorities. I think the spend ups are Harden in order: Harden, then Brown, then LaMelo for me. Like all the other Charlotte guys, Rozier, Oubre, Wood, and Christian Wood on the other side, depending on what happens with the other injury news in Houston. Tate also interesting to me, as well as John Morant. And then my other what to do things are, I think Derek White's a good, these are strong plays for me, guys who are priorities, but again, you can't play all of them. White, Bogdanovich, Reddish, Pritchard, Nathan Knight right now, sadly. One of Noel, Beasley, or Beverly probably. One of Ingles, Clarkson, or Conley for me probably, maybe two. And then at most one of White, Johnson, Lonnie Walker, or Vassell, or Podol. I don't think I want to play too many of those guys. And then I have Nasir Little in the later game. So that's
I
where
would add, the only guy I would add to that is Jaylen Brunson.
Mhm.
I agree with all the other plays that you mentioned. And just really, really quick, let me just go back to FanDuel and at least tell you which plays at least that we are standouts more over there. And I'm looking and not much. I mean, I really feel as though the value is very similar over there as opposed to DraftKings.
Yeah, I think I have basically the same thing. All right. All right, guys. Well, you'll be around at 6 Eastern?
I will be around at 6 Eastern.
Awesome. So we'll be with you guys at 6 Eastern, and we'll go through all this stuff. Hope you all are having a great holiday. Well, I guess not really a holiday, but some people are off work, so I hope you are. And let's make some money tonight. Good luck, everybody.
And you want to do a quick, you want to do a football?